Alex, I can barely hear you over the crowd. Can you hear them right now? The Bills have just landed. I want to step out of the way and show you what I'm seeing. You've seen it on the app and online, but today we're taking you inside the NITEC Control Center and showing you how they keep Western New York roads covered. Doors officially open at 8 o'clock. Take a look. There was a line earlier wrapped around the building, actually. You can see now it's dissipated a little bit, but I want to toss some video to show you what that line looked like. It's company policy that every vehicle in their fleet is able to fit a wheelchair inside the trunk. They're just grateful the drought is over. One person likened it to a 17-year-old monkey being on the city's back. Niagara County officials say these water levels are at levels higher than they've seen in about 40 years. And that's why if you look right over here, first responders are actually laying down sandbags in the yards of the homes that are most at risk. More than 15 agencies are involved. They have choppers in the air and about 12 boats in the water. By 7:30, it was partially blocked. And now take a look at what we're seeing. It's kind of a mixture of both at this point. Here at the Johnson Estate Winery, they're making pretty good use of this week's frigid temperatures. I'll have more on the ice wine harvest coming up in Spectrum News.
Say her name! India coming! Say her name! India coming!
2 years later, and they're still saying her name. 27-year-old India Cummings died shortly after being in custody at the Erie County Holding Center in 2016.
She entered with a broken arm and she left with broken ribs.
There was excessive blood clotting, which ultimately led to a pulmonary embolism, and that led to my client going into cardiac arrest. All her organs ended up shutting down.
Cummings, who was from Rochester, was accused of stealing a car and was arrested by Lackawanna police.
No one deserves to be abused, and if they're being punished, it should only be for the crimes they committed.
Community activists rallied outside of the holding center to honor the second anniversary of her death. They say a recent review from the state's Commission of Correction only furthers their claim of inhumane inmate treatment there.
What do we want? Now! When do we want it? Now!
That report raised questions about staffing and inmate suicides, among other things.
If we really want to change policing, part of the puzzle is changing the sheriff.
Cummings' death is also at the center of a wrongful death lawsuit against the county and many others, and it's now working its way through the federal court system.
There's a lot of homework and research that we have to do that they and there don't want us to do, in terms of finding out all the individual officers that were assigned to watch over India, that essentially played a role in her demise.
In Buffalo, Rochelle Alleyne, Spectrum News. We are still out here, and so are the crews. They were looking to have this truck out of here and the roads cleared by about 10 o'clock. It's about 10:30 now, and the truck is only upright, but it's not out of the road quite yet. A very quiet, kind of eerie start to the morning here in Lackawanna. As you can see behind me, smoke is just completely covering the neighborhood adjacent to the Bethlehem steel plant. Take a look at this mound of snow that snowplows have collected overnight. They are working against the clock as they try to clear up all of this lake effect snow that's been pummeling the south towns overnight and will continue on throughout the day, also creeping up towards Buffalo. I'll have more for you guys coming up on Time Warner Cable News.
I heard a popping noise, and then my friend heard or saw the spark, and then within 15 seconds, that little spark was a major explosion, and the windows just popped.
At 3:45 a.m. on the Friday before Christmas, Lisa Jakubowski's life turned upside down.
The smoke was so heavy, I couldn't see inches in front of me.
She woke up to this blaze at her home on Peter Street and had seconds to get out.
All I can do is reach for my dog, felt him, grabbed him, ran outside. No shoes, no clothes, no nothing. So what you see is from the community in the neighborhood helping me out right now.
The fire would eventually spread to homes on each side, but thankfully everyone inside was able to escape. Firefighters say the flames spread so quickly because homes on this side of town are packed pretty tight, but neighbors are just glad it wasn't worse.
If it wasn't for them, these houses would be engulfed, just like the one what already was.
Crews put that fire out in about 3 hours, all while battling freezing temperatures and hazards from up above.
He was hit with falling debris. He was in a driveway, a chimney collapsed, and he got hit with some debris. So it's minor injuries. He's expected to recover.
In the end, the blaze caused about $200,000 worth of damage, and Lisa's home will have to be torn down. But she says that pales in comparison to what she was able to save.
I'm thankful to be alive. Everything else could be replaceable.
In Buffalo, Rochelle Alleyne,
Just
Spectrum
thank you
News.
again.
That's why you saw a lot of these people running, because everybody's trying to get as close as possible to get a glimpse of the Bills getting off the plane. Let's see who we can see. Excuse me, sir. Oh, there goes some players heading off the plane right now, and of course they're excited. They're filming as they get off the plane. They're just as excited and ready to document this historic moment. I can't imagine what they're feeling right now. It must be a good feeling for them, a good way to start off 2018 for all of these Bills players who have worked so hard this year. It's really like Lieutenant Ronaldo said, while morale is high, we've been seeing those dips. He called it an emotional roller coaster. Because of that debris that you mentioned out here, they're getting a lot of false positives from the sonar readings that they're taking, and so every couple of hours, every 30 minutes, they're thinking they might have found something, and then they realize it's not what they thought. So very emotional out here, and almost a little bit tense as they're waiting to see if they find any trace of Officer Craig Lehner in the water out here. Again, that search is also moving north. Lieutenant Ronaldo saying that they're going as far as the International Bridge, really widening their search and spreading out as far as they can, going across to the Canadian side of the river as well. Spend just 5 minutes with 9-year-old Tommy Parzamiso, and one thing becomes pretty clear.
I like football and sports!
It's a fact his family is well aware of.
Like most or many 9-year-olds his age,
Go Bills! Let's go Bills!
he loves sports.
His room has like 100 sports pictures.
His sports obsession has him splitting his time between league events
He's gonna be joining a sled hockey team on Saturday.
and pickup games in his front yard. But what most don't see
Should have gone to medical school, or at least been a physical therapist.
is all the effort that goes into keeping him this active.
We spend about a half an hour every night stretching his muscles to try and keep as much of the function as possible with him.
Tommy has Duchenne muscular dystrophy, or DMD. It's a rare form of the disease that usually impacts young boys.
Boys with Duchenne typically go non-ambulatory between ages 9 and 12. And they continue to lose their fine motor skills into their teenage years, and often develop heart and lung complications, which render the disease fatal sometime in their 20s.
This leaves 9-year-old Tommy at a pivotal point in his diagnosis. So far, he's been on various medications to help alleviate his symptoms, but his family says there's something out there that could slow the pace of his disease altogether.
There's a drug called Adalurin. It has been in clinical trials since 2006, so 2 years even before Tommy was born. It's not a cure, but we believe that it buys us time. We have boys who are now in their 20s who have been on the drug for over 10 years. Some of these boys walk as late as their 20s.
Adalurin is approved for use in several European Union member states, but as of now, it's not legal for use in the U.S. unless you're approved for a clinical trial.
Every time they've opened up a new study, he hasn't met the age criteria.
But a ruling from the FDA could soon change that. The government agency is set to review and possibly legalize the drug on October 24th. According to Susan, the road to this milestone has been an uphill battle.
It's been a difficult journey to figure out how to show the FDA that this drug works, given their decades-old history and philosophy in drug studies.
She has gone as far as to testify on Tommy's behalf.
I spoke on behalf of the unmet need.
And hopes it'll be enough.
We can't wait for more studies, and we can't wait for another drug to come down the line, because if we don't start approving these drugs for the rare disease community, are the pharmaceutical companies going to keep investing in us?
As the Parzamisos wait for that final answer, they'll keep stretching, praying, and playing. In Orchard Park, Rochelle Alleyne, Spectrum News.